Hi, my name is Nicky, and for all you yogis out there, this conversation with Ghylian Bell and I is a treasure of deeply transformative wisdom. I waited years to have this conversation with Ghylian, and she made every second of the wait worth it. Ghylian Bell is the founder and director of the Urban Yoga Foundation and the People's Practice, two powerful movements towards creating yoga and mindfulness programs for students and teachers of color so their communities can reclaim self-love and healing practices founded in culturally competent mindfulness. I met Ghylian 13 years ago at her yoga home in Harlem, and my life was forever changed. I cannot put into words how blessed and how grateful I am to call Ghylian a friend, mentor, and second mother. In this conversation, Ghylian and I go deeper into her yoga practice, how to find a holistic yoga practice, and how yoga can deepen our relationship with Mother Nature. If you're located in New York and New Jersey and interested in yoga and meditation, find her on Instagram on her page, the Urban Yoga Foundation, and take one of her classes. I hope you come away with this conversation as filled with wisdom as I did. Thank you.
Hey.
Hey. Ghylian, thank you. I really, really appreciate this. It means a lot to me. I'm already about to start crying. It means a lot to me to have this moment of pause with you. So can you tell me a little bit about so first I want to say, yoga, the way that you carry it is not like yoga, the way that yoga is typically carried in this space and in this time in the West. Mm-hmm. So when I use the word yoga in this conversation, I want to very specifically be calling upon your yoga, your practice of yoga.
Okay.
So when and how did your practice of yoga start?
Wow. I'm asked that question a lot, and I want to speak to the young mind because it happened very early for me in my young mind, and what seeds are planted in young people. I was about 11 years old, and my father, who works with his hands, was working on a house, and he came home with Buddha and Kuan Yin ceramics, pieces. And I said, "What is that?" And he said, "I don't know. I just thought you would like it." Right? So we didn't know what it was. We didn't know what it was connected to. And I still have Kuan Yin. Buddha was broken, unfortunately, but Kuan Yin is still there. And I got other Buddhas to support Kuan Yin so they wouldn't be alone. But it was my first yoga class that I would see Buddha, and I'd lost my father by then, and I was just like, wow, Dad. So that was that moment. So I want to say the first seed was my father. The second implant of the seed in the earth was Bunny Wailer. I was 19 years old, and a friend of mine, we wanted to go to a brunch, and we were staying at her godfather's house, who was in the music industry. And there was an old gentleman who had come in from Jamaica who was staying there. I did not know who he was, but we were getting dressed to leave, and he said, "Where are you ladies going?" And I said, "We're going to have some brunch." And he says, "Not before you practice." And I was just like, okay. I mean, I'm used to not before you pray, right? But he said practice, and he was sitting in full lotus, and he was in his white and had his hair wrapped up in his white turban. And he introduced me to Kundalini and meditation at that point, which is all yoga, which is all the same practice. And we weren't allowed to leave until we did that practice. So I will say Bunny Wailer, my father. And then I had another friend who introduced me to the importance of a continued practice by buying me, I was a single mom, and just buying me yoga classes. And I practiced with Eddie Stern, Ashtanga with Eddie Stern, and was very fortunate to have those 3 instances remind me of pause and purpose and practice. So yeah, for me, yoga is union. It's uniting, the mind, body, and the animated spirit of breath to find a union and connection for us all. So when we're introduced to things like that, there's a spark of connection that you immediately recognize as something that you might not understand, but you just need to be ready for the assignment. And I guess I was ready for the assignment.
And the way that you were given yoga, was it given in a very holistic perspective? Because the way that you carry yoga is a very integrated, into your entire life, into life itself. And so were you given that perspective, or did you come to that?
That's a really good question. You're good with these things that you do. That's a really good question. So what I would say about that, it's a journey. It's a lifestyle journey of remembering, putting pieces and connecting things back to a foundational principle of union. And no, I wasn't introduced to it that way. It was a part of, what is the practice for me? It's like every time in your embodied space, you're called for something. It's like every time you wake up, there's something going on in your body. It's like, what is your body speaking to you? What's your body saying to you today? Oh, my hips are saying something. Then your practice should be identifying what's going on there. So I feel like every time I needed to grow, because I was open to growing, something would come and give me that extra something to keep it going, to keep whole, to keep present, to keep connected. So my practice is a development of not only the consciousness of energies around me, but how I was raised in my family, my aunties, my abuelas, my abuelas. My whole family's gonna be like, your abuelas! My grandmothers, my grandfathers, my uncles, my aunties, my cousins, like every part of our family was yoga. And I just found a way to use all of it.
And what do you mean by that? Because I'm assuming they weren't practicing
No.
yoga. So what do you mean by your whole family was yoga?
They knew the union that was life. They understood the importance of connection to sound. They all played instruments or sang. So there was always a vibrational energy of light around me. My grandmother's garden. My first memories of playing in the earth, looking at my hands and nails and feet and wondering why I was so dirty all the time, because I was in the dirt. When dirt was packed dirt. It was soil. It wasn't like dust where you could kind of brush it off. This was like nutrient-rich soil. I remember that. And I remember the beauty of the connection to her hands in the earth and then what she got from her garden and brought into the house. I remember her pantry. So when I think of yoga and the practice of yoga and mindfulness, it stems from Mother Earth, my grandmother's garden, her humming, the wisdom in her voice, and the musical sound and energy and light in her spirit, cooking or baking cakes from scratch, everything, ice cream from scratch, everything was from scratch, everything. So mindfulness, yoga, practice was intentional just by the everyday tasks that we had to do. So the physical practice for me came through so many other things. I was 3 or 4 years old when my auntie had me, I was a majorette for her high school football team. And that's when winters were tough. You know, it was like blizzards out there during football time. And the majorette, the mascot, would lead the football team, the band. I was the first one on the field. And I'm very much an introvert. I cried all the time. I was such a sensitive child. And she taught me focus. I had to, I mean, I can't even do it now. That metal baton that I would swing up, put under my legs, swing over behind me, lift my knees up till they hit my chest. When I think of what it took for a little girl to do that, it was intentional practice. It was almost martial arts. You know what I mean? It was almost martial arts. And it was scary because I was bony, I was fragile, but I needed that. I needed something to pull me out of my fragility. I needed something more than I thought I could do. So that was like a seed, another seed of practice. And then the horns and the drum behind me, you know, just the courage to just walk out on that field, but have the foundation of people. So, you know, this is my metaphor in what I do. I've always felt this tremendous support from my community, from my family. So it was easy for me when I understood the assignment of building a yoga place. You know, it had to be home. It had to be, people have to come in there and feel like, do you feel that you're at home? Yes, I do. Okay, I'm going upstairs, or I'm going to do what I'm going to do because you're home. Be home. Don't be home. Be free to express what your body needs, the feeling of being cared for. I was very cared for. So when I practice yoga, and when I think of the people's practice, is what I call it, the people's practice, it's for all of us. So how do I make you feel safe? Is always my first question. Not like what your body can do, because your body's going to do what it's going to do if it's safe. You're going to do stuff you didn't think you could do if you feel safe. So the first thing is, from what I've received, it's like feeling safe. And then my body does this tremendous, my breath, I'm with it. And I share it. I hope I answered that question.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a few things that you said that really struck me, and I want to come back to what you ended on. The first thing that you said that really, like, my soul kind of like jumped up when you said it was my grandmother's garden, and the significance of that for you. And I have a deep relationship to that statement because my grandmother, my Nonna, growing up and having her, being a part of her garden, tending to her garden, the tomatoes and the basil and the grapes and the cucumbers and things like that. It was a tiny little garden, and I remember that time shaped me in a way that is still a part of my lifestyle. You know, I don't have a garden now, but I can see how in the way that you carry yoga and the way that you teach yoga and the way that you create spaces, it feels like that.
Yes.
And I hadn't consciously connected those energies until you just said that.
Yeah.
Of like the care of how do I make you feel cared for. And at the same time, what I also really appreciate about the way that you hold space is, and something else that you said, of taking you out of your fragility. And that, so I don't know if this is a question, but what do you see, or how do you move in a way, or how do you hold space in a way that cares for, that tends to, that feels like a garden, while also knowing that I need, I don't know if it's the right way to phrase it, like I need you to not be fragile, but how does that all come together in a practice of yoga?
Well, you said it. It's the practice. So, but what is the practice? So the practice is first understanding who you are. You know, like when I teach from a historic lens. So the foundational principle of my teaching is the cradle of civilization, is Abekulon, right? They call Abekulon was the first word of Africa before it was Africa. It was known as, and that's like, quote unquote, like the Garden of Eden, the cradle of civilization. So when we talk about where we started in the garden, we started from the soil. Like we are not a particular land mass, although we understand where the cultivation and the cradle of civilization and where we began. We're still not a landmass, but we are the soil. We're not a particular name, but we are the soil. So if we can land there, then we're connected, right? So first we have to land in the connection of us. And we have to find that. Because if we can own that piece, oh my God, we're halfway there, right? So if I say in the soil, there's alabaster rocks, there's copper brown, there's deep, rich, dark brown, there's all these colors in the soil, right? That make us appear. And then it's like, so as we're in the soil, what else is in the soil? What do you want to see in the soil that's for the highest good? Like there's truth in the soil. There's abundance in the soil, right? There's resilience in the soil. It's in there. So when we think of that, and so some of those are the yamas, right? Or the laws of Ma'at, or whatever we want to call them that have been named, it's in the soil. And that's where our roots grow from, right? So if I'm teaching, if I can get young people, and I teach this from pre-K to college students to elders, to understand that we are of that soil, that we are the tree, that we are the seed, right? So that's how we start this idea of planting our practice and cultivating the root system that builds up into the trunk of support. Because if you can't understand what's in the soil and what the root system is, how do you find support? And how are you supported? And if you understand that and name that support system, then you can grow and branch out. So here you are, you're the tree, branching out, cultivating from this place and growing. But how do you flower? How do you flower? You flower by using what's in the soil, what you remember from the roots, from the soil system, and you bring it back so it can be seen. So how do I bring in abundance? How do I bring in resilience? How do I bring in truth, reciprocity? So it can flower. And once it's flowered, then it's beautifully bloomed, because you've not only in your practice done that. What pose is making me feel resilient? What am I being truthful in this pose? Am I hurting myself? Or am I at ease? So for me, the practice is that dance between what's in the soil, what supports us, we support us, our teachers support us, our parents support us, our home. Name it, name the trunk of support so you can branch out, flower, back to the soil, and start all over again. And this is that beauty of when we look at the trees and the mycelium and how we talk, we communicate on a soil level. You and I communicate on a soil level. Like I don't have to be near you. Your tree could be on a whole other side of town, but under that soil and that mycelium, I'm like, I'm feeling and I'm talking to you because we are already connected in our root system. But that's why we have to know who we are. And when we connect back to like Mother Earth, Mother Nature, Mother Africa, all the cultures that we are from the first civilization of man, peopling the world, when we honor that connection, then we have a garden. Then we have possibilities of growth. Then I could feed you and you could feed me. What's on your tree? What do you have to serve? Like, and what do I have to receive? And how can we just, there's a saying, it's like the axe, I think it's about the axe and the tree. It's like the tree doesn't know that the axe has a motivation, not of its highest good, right? The axe wants to make the tree wood, and the tree is looking at the axe and saying, your handle is made of wood, so maybe you're like me, you know? But it's made of wood connected to a piece of metal that destroys trees. And I think, and now in this society, we have to look at things that look like maybe they're made of wood, but maybe they're an axe. And even though it's made of wood of a tree, it kind of lost its connection to the root system. And it became a tool of destruction. Maybe it can be a tool for some trees that need to keep us warm, but I think we have a lot of axes out here right now, and we need more trees. So I just don't, I'm like, am I answering these questions?
You are so answering this.
Okay.
That was incredible. I really thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. There's so much in that. So a lot of the way that I hear you describing yoga and the practice of yoga is the antithesis to the yoga that most people have access to today. The yoga practice that people have access to today is a $300 a month membership to a room full of mirrors, and it's about you and your body isolated from everybody else being fixed into postures. In that practice, there is no root system, there is no soil, there is no air, there are no flowers. There's just postures of trees.
Yes.
So for those who want a more enriched, more nourishing yoga practice, but that is when they look up yoga nearby and that's what they get, how can someone develop a yoga practice in the way that you're describing it to be?
That's a very packed question. You know, my heart goes out to people who walk into yoga classes cold. I don't do it. I did. And when I started my practice, I felt safe. And then I felt like some of my teachers got distracted with me. And then I knew I needed to leave. I was done. And it's what I feel about the education system. My father left school in the 6th grade, and he was an entrepreneur, and he was a mathematician. He was a genius at math. But it was very interesting because he left school in the 6th grade, but he became self-taught. And I remember he said to me, he said, you know, you only go to school so I won't go to jail. He said, school is it's like fellowship. It's like church. You know, his belief system is like mine. We are the church. The church is the body, the living body, right? The physical house of church is fellowship. It's where you go to connect with people who that day, they want to celebrate spirit. But the true church is the body, right? And education in school is just that. It's almost like fellowship as well. But it's up to each one of us to do our own self-study. And that's also with yoga. I would say for people going into studios, take a restorative class. Take a yoga for injury class. Stay there and see if you trust that first. I said, but because we have a lot of gymnasts, cheerleaders, acrobats getting their yoga teacher training, and they're hurting bodies. You know, back to teaching from a historic lens, from the cradle of civilization. So we think of the teepee or the pyramid, and the bottom of that foundation being Kush, Africa, Karma, Taseti, Maro, right? And geometric progression, sacred geometry, mathematics, how they did mathematics. Like, what's your leg doing? What angles are in your bodies? That's structural. That's the basis, right? And then it's mathematics, right? Angles are mathematics. Like, is your arm naturally in an angle? Is that wrist over that elbow? How's that shoulder and elbow and wrist aligned? How is your knee aligned? Is your knee stacked on the ankle, supporting the hip? That's how the pyramids were supported, to build upon a structural purpose of support, made from the Temple of Man. Schwaller de Lubitz, Temple of Man, amazing book. So the movement of a people out of Africa is Indus Kush, Harappan Valley, Mohenjo-Daro, Vinyasa. The movement out of Kush into Indus Kush is the movement of a people. That wonderful Vinyasa moment. And now we're at the top of that pyramid or that teepee, because as the laws of Tahuti, or Hermetic laws, I think the Greeks changed Tahuti's name to Hermes. So the laws of Tahuti are now called Hermetic laws, but they are the laws of Tahuti. As above, so below. So the top of that pyramid is Yucatan, Mayan, Aztec culture, mindfulness, the same energies. These are the same people we're talking about. And that slope down on that other side of that pyramid is Jamon, Japanese, Shang, China, Motai Tai Chi Chi Gong, all the wonderful energies of those, Afro-Asiatic people that gave us those practices. So these people not only help people the world, but also brought us all the practices that we do. So when I teach in the system of yoga that I teach, which is the people's practice, we honor all those systems, and we understand that they're all the same. It's like I can look at your face and I can see 50 cultures. I can look in my face and I can look at my granddaughter. I'm like, so many people I see, because that's who we are. We're so many, there's so much of us in all of us. So how do we have just one way of learning? We can't. We're multifaceted. And this is where the diversity conversation comes in, because it's all diversity. It's all, the practice is diverse. The culture is diverse. So there's no way we can be in a homogenized society, which is why it's causing so much dis-ease. So when I say to people about their practice, understand and remember who you are before you begin anything, because it will call to you. Once you decide, once you plant that understanding, or just make the call for it. If you don't even know how to plant it, just call out and say, I'm looking for this. How do I, the teacher will come. The practice, it will come. Now the thing is, are you ready to hear it? Are you ready to believe it? Are you ready to stay in the room? Because it maybe goes against everything that you've known. That's something different. But if you do stay in the room, you cultivate an understanding of how you can bridge in this moment in your life, how you can bridge what you need to teach or what you need to learn. And that's how I cultivated my practice. It was walking into every room feeling uncomfortable. And I know you know this because you practice capoeira, and you went to Brazil, right? So you went with the amazing maestros of capoeira, right? And probably people looking at you like, what are you doing here, And having to do what so many of our culture has to do, prove yourself triple fold. You couldn't even be basic, because you were sitting in there with people who were like,
Prove yourself.
Prove yourself, right? And either you could have, in your fragility, whimpered, weeped, willowed, or you could expand and decide, I'm going to go beyond where my mind is and allow my consciousness to take me to a place that I can remember who I am. I can remember I've done this before. It was me leading that football team as a skinny little cold child in the snow, lifting myself up, remembering I could do it. Like this whole idea of possibilities. You know, my heart goes out to where we've put young people today. You know, that there's so much put into this fragile piece and place that we forget what we're made of. We're some amazing people. And we cannot allow our children and the future generations to think that it's not possible. Because it is. You know, you're living proof, I'm living proof, like we have so much. And that's why I think we find each other, because we're counteracting this idea that we're not one. I know who you are. I'm comfortable in the seat across from my brother, who used to be probably my father, who was maybe my uncle, or maybe my son. But my soul circle is always constant. Find your soul circle, and then it's like, wow, there's a relationship here, and let's find out how deep it goes. And that's where I'm at with the practice, and that's where I'm at with people finding where they need to be in the studio they need to be in, or maybe it's just a person they need to meet and they have their own personal practice that they need to grow into. We talked about this before with Bruce Lee. And because I know it was the same for Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee came from Kung Fu. And the leaders of Kung Fu did not want Bruce Lee to share Kung Fu with the United States of America. They did not think we were ready. And they were probably right. But Bruce Lee was a man from the streets. I don't think people know that. Bruce Lee was in gangs. Bruce Lee was like, he was out there. And when he came to the States and he had this practice that he wanted to share because he thought that this would connect us. And the Chinese were like, no, you will not share our wisdom practices with these people. So a lot happened in between this story, but just to shorten it, he created Jeet Kune Do. He created Jeet Kune Do to meet what was needed now. And also to honor the past. It's a Sankofa moment. What do you take from the past and bring back to the present in the highest form of good? Not everything can be brought back, but a lot can if it's for the highest form of good. So what he did with Jeet Kune Do was he brought something that was needed now to deal with the truth of what is needed. And he started all these schools and did all this amazing stuff. And all these people just wanted to study with Bruce Lee. And at the peak of all his schools doing so well, he closed them. And he closed them because he said, you're staying here. I introduce you to this, and then you stay here? Where's your growth? So and that was me for the people's practice. It was like, I was introduced to Ashtanga, to Hatha Yoga, to Muay Thai, Qigong, to mindfulness meditation, when mindfulness is yoga, and trying to tell the mindfulness community that it's all the same thing. It was like this idea of this separate piece that I'm like, no, we cultivate what's needed now. Let's bring it all together, and what do the people need now? And what I thought, and why I named the People's Practice is because Fred Hampton, 20-year-old hero, 21-year-old hero, Black Panther Party, said as long as there's people, there's power. Power to the people. So for me, how do I give people power within themselves to name something after them? You know, you got all these teachers and name them. You know, could have been the urban yoga practice, could have been the Ghylian practice. You know, Bikram got his practice, and this person has his practice. No, but what do the people need, and what do the people need to cultivate within themselves? Very much is what you did with capoeira and your somatic, you know, movement that you do, fusing all your yoga, your capoeira skills, your somatic, all that stuff into what you call your practice and teach it. That's where we're at now. So finding your practice, you might not find it in a yoga class. It might be within your own body system. Yeah. Some long answers.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Some long answers.
I thank you.
You're so funny. You just pull it out of me. It's very easy to talk to you. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Proud of you.
So much of the way that I walk and the way that I'm able to walk is from your teachings, and from having a direction of truth. You know, like when I started learning from you, it felt like the way, at least for me. You know, it felt sustainable. Now that I have the words for it, it felt like a garden. And to speak to that, what goes into your practice when you are creating space? I mean, maybe creating space is not the right language, but, you know, I used to think that it was something local. When I was practicing with you in the brownstones, there was a feeling of like, okay, it's because this is her home that this is able to feel the way that it does. Yeah. But then recently, I've practiced with you on the street of Harlem. I've practiced with you in that the place that's indoors on
Fotografiska on Park Avenue, yeah.
And what I started to feel from you recently, the classes that I've taken, is that it's almost as if you're able to extend your aura and that is the space. So my question is that your experience of it? And also, how did you get there? How did you do that?
That's an amazing question. You got some good ones. You just come up with these, don't you? That's a really good one. And I love that because you know what? You know what that reminds me of? I was teaching somewhere recently, and it was a student before I got there left because they didn't feel safe in the space that I was coming to. And they left me a message and they said, I realize I can't be in all spaces, in all places. And I don't want to be the elephant in the room. And I remember saying to that person, elephants are sacred, be the elephant in the room. And you take up space everywhere because you're already everywhere. So this is where it goes to remembering who you are. And because I know I'm everywhere, everywhere's home. Because my body's home. My body's at church, my body's home. So if I'm committed to the truth in that, I can teach anywhere. I can walk into rooms, and I say to my students all the time, I was like, do you know how amazing it is to be able to change the energy in the room? And that's either positive or negative. That could be either way. But you have to decide. You have to decide, how do I want to change the energy? The class clown could change the energy with laughter, right? And you'll remember that class clown, Might grow up to be an Eddie Murphy, right? Or Dave Chappelle, or whatever comedian you connect with, right? That class clown, you know, it's like, wow, he used to be so funny in class. Oh, wow, it makes sense. You could be the disruptor that makes you have to leave the room every day because the teacher just can't get anything done. Or you can be the conduit, the catalyst. You can be the change maker. You can be the peacekeeper, the cultivator. You could be the crushed eggshells that the plant needs to nourish itself when it's just dying and you don't know what else to do but put more nutrients in it. It's a decision that we all make when we step out of fear. Because fear blocks blessings. Fear blocks every part of any magic that can happen. And I'm always clear that fear has no hold on me. Even in this climate, I'm like, okay, we can't eat the food in our country. What do? I'm like, we grow our food. That's what we do. It's like we level up. It's like I could walk around and say, I'm just afraid to eat, or I could level up and go back to my grandmother's garden and go back to the way it was when I remembered just being in the soil. I could level up. And I think that's what we're being asked to do. We're being asked to if your deepest desire is actually to live on the land and maybe just move out of the discomfort of what you think life is supposed to be, what's holding you back? What's holding you back? My space is how I create it and who I invite in it to help cultivate and add to that creative space. I hope I answered that question. It really is. And I'm so happy to share it. I sure am. I'm in a space now. This is the Williams Center in Rutherford, New Jersey. Well, I'll be doing monthly meditations. And I did my first one last month. And, it's the first time you're always inviting people and, you don't know who's going to show. I had 11 family members here and close friends. And the manager was just like, oh my God, it looks like you just have your family here. And I was like, perfect. Because they're gonna cultivate the rhythm in the walls in this space. They're the fertilizer and support that I needed to just show up. Now, another person can look at that and say, oh my God, just my family showed up. And not feel great about that and not understand that is a great that's a great soil cultivation. Every time we are out here, we are cultivators, we are anthropologists, we are archaeologists, we are farmers. We have to change the language of who we think we are, and we have to do the things that in the beginning of this country, in its fertilest time of abundance, that we've unfortunately are starting to deplete. We have to remember to give it back. So my assignment is clear, and that's how I clear the space, with that in mind. With that in mind.
What would you say your assignment? And I would think that your assignment, there was a meta assignment the whole time, and then there's also ways in which that assignment has evolved and changed over the years into what it is now. So what do you think? What do you see as your meta assignment, and what is your micro assignment in this moment in time?
My micro assignment in this moment is connecting to my students and peers and mentees and mentors like you, because I call you all those things, because there's so much that you teach me. It's a reciprocal thing with teacher and student. It's not one way. There's no way someone can go through their whole life and And even though I'm honored to be honored as a teacher, I'm like, oh, I'm a student. Oh, I'm a forever student. And so that's my meta. I mean, that's my micro. Just owning the beauty of what all the trees that have been planted and what the work that you guys are all doing just blows my mind. And I'm always like, I want to do stuff on my teachers. My teachers are the bomb. Y'all don't even know. My teachers are amazing. So it's always about that for me. The bigger picture is for all of us to cultivate places to travel to live at home. So I need you to cultivate a place so that I know when I go there, it's what I'm used to, because you understand the assignment. And that's really the truth of what, I always had this idea, and I used to talk to my friends about it. It's like, you know what, guys, I don't want to own 5 and 6 houses like these wealthy people do. Like, you gotta have a house here in Aspen, I have a house here, and da. I don't need that. I want to have my house. I want you to have yours. I want you to have yours, and then we have keys. Then it's like, you want to do a workshop in New York how do you want to do it? What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? Where are you? Oh, you want to? I have a teacher in Fiji who's teaching yoga and surfing, and I can't wait to do something with her. You, Hawaii, Italy, like all the beautiful things that are coming your way. I can't wait until, we start. So for me, it's like, then I'm like, we have our own green book. So the green book, for people of color was where they could go and travel and eat and sleep in safety during Jim Crow South, during the horrific times of racialized terror. And this would be our new green book. This would be a place where in this place, you'll know you're good. I don't have to, there's no vetting. I'm like, we're going to Knicks. We're going to Mount, it's no vetting. I don't have to think about it. That's my bigger picture. What my people are doing is my bigger picture. What I'm doing right now is a smaller picture to plant those seeds for those people that I believe are just amazing. And the bigger picture is to continually cultivate the union that is yoga with those bigger ideas and keep us connected. Yeah, that's what I see.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I appreciate you sharing that, because I see that as the extension of what you shared with me as like your students being the seeds of Urban Yoga Foundation.
Yes.
And it's why I always interpreted that as, in my own way of what you just described, that whatever I create next will be the rendition or the evolution of that.
Yes.
And how it may not look exactly the same way, but I know that it will still be home of the same home.
Yes. Yes. And you'll feel it, and most importantly, I'll feel it.
Right.
Because you know what I mean? I'm like, oh my God, it was done. And it, for those who don't know, I just want to bring up this moment of the first time you walked into my studio. You just needed it. You didn't tell me why. You didn't tell me what was going on. You just like, is there any way I could just come by? And I was like, sure. Door's open. Come on. And you come up, and then I start to go upstairs, and you're like, where are you going? And I was like, I'm going upstairs. He's like, well, what am I supposed to do? And I said, practice. Use the space. Be the space.
And there was no class schedule.
There was no class schedule. It was like, you need this? Take up space. Take up all the space and all the time that you need so that you can go back out into the world. Because we have to give from the overflow. There's no half full, half empty in us. That's gone. We have to make sure we're overflowing, and we give from the overflow. There's no more depletion. There's no more. Because you cannot make conscious decisions in a depleted environment. That's why we sit. In tribal times, Native Americans, indigenous people will say, Grandma, why do we dance? Why do we dance? And that's that connection, that's that drum on the earth to say we're here. And it's also the drum on the earth to bring up any energies that just need to, spirits, ancestors that you need to be released. Because we hold on to people. We hold on to people that we lose because we don't want to lose them. But that doesn't serve our highest good because they're already inside of us.
We don't,
They've never there's
Yeah.
no losing. But in our minds, if that's what we're perpetuating, then that does so much damage to what that doesn't serve our highest good. So we dance to release energies and release this idea of what we need to hold. We trust and we release it out there so that the work can be done on the other side in its full capacity, not in its depletion. Just like on this side, as above, so below. The laws of correspondence, the laws of gender, the laws of yin and yang, cause and effect, it's all the same, it's the same thing. So fear and lack cannot keep us in this place of insecurity, uncertainty, and destruction. That in our truth, in our gifts from the universal great spirit that is the one and true energies of life, there's infinite power and abundance. There's infinite opportunities to shift your mind and change. That there's no one set in their ways, that's an ideology that keeps people bound. That even at 83, a woman could or a man could wake up and decide change. And the beauty of discovery is looking at our ancestors and spending enough time with them, our elders, our wisdom holders, so that we can also instill in them the promise of the future that they invested in with us. And that's important. That's important because that helps all of it, because there's the exchange again. We're not having elders just feel like, what have I done? Have I done anything? Like, who's here to keep this going? Or who's paying attention to the wisdom and beauty that I thought that I was showing and giving? They need that. They need that exchange. We already see it in them. We already see it in young people. They're doing their thing, right? But when do they turn around and look back and say, you know, my mother taught me grace. My mother's heart, my mother's voice, is why I'm such an amazing teacher. My father's resilience, my father's grit, my father's tenacity and courage is why I'm fierce. I was fortunate to have the two polarities of difference that I had to balance. And I had to understand what I should keep and what I should leave, what I should cultivate and grow more into, and what I should just put on a shelf for now. Because sometimes you need some of that ancestor energy that you don't need right now. It's like, oh, let me put this on the shelf, right? And see if I ever need that. But everything we need is in there. And some of us who had bad relationships with our parents, But what did they teach you in that bad? What did you learn?
What can you harvest?
Yeah. What happened? That what can you take in? Well, they never paid attention to me. So where do you take that in your life? Are you paying attention? Are you taking that wisdom that they showed you and you're just giving back the same lack? Because they did show you something. They showed you what was needed. And they brought you here to cultivate it. And I said that to everybody. I was like, well, they gave you life. They gave you a chance of changing something. Because you're here. Now what you're going to do about it? Okay.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you went there because recently I started learning more about hereditary or things that we inherit, not just in a physical way, the way that medicine talks about like inheriting diseases or things like that, but also seeing inheritance as a spiritual contract, as like, this is yours, this is what I'm giving you to do, this is what I'm giving you to work with. And that it can often be polarized as like good inheritance or bad inheritance. But if we just see it all as part of our mission, part of what we're here to do. Then it can be put into the soil.
Yes. To grow better. Listen, plantings happen like that all the time. If we remove ourselves out of the physical form and go into plant life, and this is why it's easy to do that, because when you do it like that, and because we're not separate from plant life, like we are all of it, right? So let's just take this physical human self away and make ourselves plant life. Sometimes I need to cut off from my home tree to cultivate in new soil a different root system. It doesn't mean I'm not honoring this tree. The tree gave me life. But what I know is there's something going on here, and we need to support it in a different way.
I love that shaping, because something that I've been chewing on and digesting in myself is because a lot of the work that I do and a lot of the fields that I'm in is with trauma and healing and things like that. And a lot of the dominant conversation is like getting to the root, getting to like the root of the problem. And there was something always about that didn't sit right well with me, because if you just uproot everything, you won't have a garden.
Right.
And by narrowing it down to the root causes, you're not looking at the soil.
Right.
And what I'm hearing you say is, what if it's not the tree? What if it's not your parents? What if it's not this person or this thing that you may be blaming for the cause of the trauma or the cause of the pain? And what if it's the soil that person lived in, or or the event happened in? And what I'm hearing from that is like, there are times when moving away from that is not blaming or cutting yourself off or forgetting about the tree or the root system, but acknowledging that space, there's something about that space, there's something about the soil, there's something about what's happening inside of this space that I need to move away from.
Honey, that brings you right back to the axe and the tree. Because the tree recognizes the wood and the axe. The tree's like, that's family. But it's also like, but what's that?
Right, what's the metal?
What's the metal?
Yeah.
Well, the metal is used to destroy the tree, but the tree still understands the connection.
Right. The acknowledgement.
The acknowledgement of, even in, and this is when you go, right?
So you're still relative.
Right.
Yeah, we're still relatives.
We're still relatives. We're still family. You're still a part of me. Exactly, right? So, and that's why I teach. That's why I teach through nature. But this goes back to, and you can't make this up, this goes back to indigenous spirituality. It's all nature based. There's no disconnect from Mother. Mother Earth, Mother Nature, Mother Africa. There's no disconnect. And the reason why we are going through turmoil right now is because we are disconnected from the Mother. And we got to heal that.
So this is something I want to get your thoughts on, because this is something that I've been trying to toil with in and of myself. Is, again, I don't know where I stand on this, but the experience of disconnection from the Mother. When I look at cultures that exist today, there are very clear behaviors that communicate a disconnection and lack of acknowledgement to the Mother and to Earth. There is a really deep part of me that says that that's not true. That we can't be disconnected.
Right.
That there is no
way to disconnect.
And now, from when I think about it from a neurological perspective, we can become desensitized. I can no longer feel something, but just because I don't feel it or see it or taste it or hear it doesn't mean that it's not there.
Right.
So what do you, I don't even know how to formulate this into a question, but like, how do you toil with that, or because it,
a couple of movies come to mind when you say that, but they're so beyond your times, you guys. They're so beyond your times. It comes. We are in the world, but not of it. And I say that first to say this. The idea that we play with is, it's like this human plane, it's like being a kid in a candy store. It's like, oh my goodness, I get to eat all of this? I can have all of this? And the only person that keeps you from getting completely gorged and sick is that mother that says, no, you can have some of it. You can't have all of it because it's not good for you. That's in your deep, when you say that deep consciousness that says we're never separated from the mother, that's that inner knowing. That's that inner knowing. That's why you say in your deepest, there's no way we're separate from the mother. And I get that. Because even the most hardened criminal at death row, usually that's who they call him for. Mama. Right? We see what happens to indigenous bodies, BIPOC bodies in the streets when they're calling for mama. Big men! But that person they're calling for is mama. All of us know, to your point, that there is no disconnection. But in this earth plane, where we get distracted, disguised, disoriented, distrustful, all the freaking things diseased that keep us disconnected. That's the remembering. That's why we practice. We practice to honor that feminine mother energy that softens us, that just gets us to be like, okay, mom. Even if we never had a relationship with mother, knowing that kind of relationship, that kind of soothing voice that rocks you to sleep, that touch, that whatever. Even if we never had that, what the practice brings to us is the idea that it's possible. That's the balance in what we need to soften our minds and hearts. That even in ancient African spirituality, the laws of Ma'at teach that your judgment day, it's a feather, it's a scale. Is your heart as light as a feather? So every night that you sleep, every night before you go to bed, it's like, am I light? Be light, be light, be light. Am I heavy? The heaviness is the disbelief and the disconnection. The lightness is the remembrance that you are cared for, that you are loved. It's your inner wisdom of that mother. And it's what you just said 10 minutes ago. It is that knowing that I am never disconnected. But in order to tap in, you got to practice. You got to sit with yourself. And we use all these words, even in like, you sit there and think about what you did, right? I need you to sit and I need you to sit and be still. Hey, sit, relax, be still. In the true words of a mother's kindness or a grandma's grace, because that was my grandma's grace, it's like, sweetheart. And you just get the look. You get the touch, and you get the smile and the look. And you didn't want to do anything bad. There was nothing you can do but melt in the grace of what was afforded you to be forgiven. But that's personal work every day. Did I forgive? Am I forgiven? And not does somebody else outside of me forgive me, but did I forgive me? You know, am I okay? Am I okay? Because that's what you ask Mom. Mommy, am I okay? Is this okay? You like this top? What about my hair? You know, like whatever. Yeah. It's like your sense of yin and yang, you're male and female, you're masculine, feminine. We are all male, we are all female. We don't need, and on this in the highest form of good, with all respect, we don't need anything to separate us. We are us and them. We are. We are the us and them pronouns. We don't need to think about she or he, or we are the us and them. But we've gotten to a point where we're so fragmented and it's so easy to be like cast out, you know, that culture that just cast you out because you said the wrong thing. When I'm just living in the truth of indigenous ways, sees everything as both masculine and feminine. There's no separation. Where are you leaning into today, though? What do you need to serve you today? Do you need mother energy to serve you today? Do you need that soft wisdom and that kind beauty? Or are you finding your place where that protective nature of fight or flight comes in and you have to sit up a little straighter and say, no, that's not what is happening, but what we could do is this. It doesn't mean you're harsh. It just means that there's a direction, there's a phallic direction. That's why that is the way it is. And the beauty of us to play with that within each other is the beauty of life. But it doesn't mean that we have to separate it or demean one from the other. No, we play with that mother inside, that feminine energy inside. And for me, I was so seeped in feminine energy, I needed the masculine energy. I needed to take up for myself a little bit more. I needed to, because I was just so kind and malleable. And I still am. But there's a part of me that can also say, no, I don't think so. That's not happening. Where when I was little, I cried all the time. I was afraid. I was scared. I was that fragile little person that needed to have people come into my life And for most people, they'd be like, wow, that sounds like a negative experience. I was like, no, it taught me so much. So what's happening in your life that is teaching you something, or what are you running from? Or is that fragility being dealt with? Is that anger being dealt with? Like where's the balance that you need to look inside in the mothering of yourself, right? And say, what do I need today? In my practice, what is it that I need today? And for me today, I woke up dancing. I woke up playing music. I knew I was going to see you. I was like, I'm going to see Nick. I'm so excited. I get to see and talk, because this man, there's no quick conversations with you, right? Never. And I was excited. So I danced. And I danced. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be late. I got to get out of here. But it's like, what do you do to celebrate life daily? And that's the mother inside of you. That's the caretaker, you know? And what's the wisdom of that father? The father side of you is the ability to keep it moving no matter what. To show up in a grounded presence and a watchful eye. That male energy is watching. Because when mother speaks to what is needed, that masculine energy of father listens and gets it done. And that's happy life, happy wife, by the way. You know, but it's the balance. And if it changes, that's fine. Maybe in this place, the woman came in with that masculine thing to get it done, and the man is like, I'm home with the kid. I got this. I'm good at it. Have at it. There's no judgment, but just honor it. Just honor whatever that is, and however it reveals itself, honor it, so that we understand that there has to be the balance of the masculine and feminine. That's how it works. Whatever it looks like, that's how it works. For me.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that that's where you went, because what I'm getting from that is it's not so much about disconnection as it is balance.
Yes. Yes. Well, thank you for taking my 10-minute dissertation and making it like, you just gave me a t-shirt. Yes. Basically, yes. And we're in a place of imbalanced people who have lost their cultural relevance a lot. And the ones who have lost their cultural relevance are the ones we're having a problem with. Because they have nothing to land on.
Right. Yeah.
Right? They have nothing. You know, when I was with a group of amazing women this weekend, and I was talking to them about this, and it was a group of white women, and we were talking about, you know, when they used to call themselves Italians and Irish. You know, when it wasn't, I'm white, it was I'm Irish, I'm Italian, you know, I'm Jewish, and the relevance of the celebration and light in that, and the importance of how they used fear to break down culture. And that's what the witch hunts were about. You know, that was one of the times where I would say white women got to see what indigenous people were going through because they were being burnt because they were women of the land. They were cultural women. They knew what to do. They knew what herbs and stuff they knew, because they're cultural women. They came from culture. They came from the land. They knew exactly who they were. And they were demonized for it. And that memory sticks in the back of the women's minds. So assimilation happens, because that's fear. Let me be like this, and then I won't have to deal with that. But we lost so much medicine. Because they have the medicine. You know, and that's what we got to get back to. Because it's not far. It's only 2 generations, 3 generations. Like, because some still hit it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like, it's like your grandmother. You know, it's like, it's not far.
I can see a massive reclamation of that wisdom happening now. In terms of what you were saying about like what the mission is now. That's absolutely what I see as a part of the mission is to reconnect to the land, to recognize that. I love the metaphor that you use, that like we are soil.
Yes.
You know,
And
we
all
are
colors in
plant medicine. Like
right.
we are plants.
Yep. Yep. And when we remember that, then there's no separation. Then we can heal. We're not ready for the healing yet because we still got to get rid of the pus and the infection. We have an infection, right? So we got to get rid of the infection, clean it up, and then we got the healing balm, the salve. And then we still got to be gentle with ourselves, right? So right now, as we're dealing with the infection, we have to be gentle with ourselves because it hurts, because it's infected and it hurts. That means we have to rest. We have to make sure we're taking care of ourselves. There's so much to this connection to life and how medicine, medicine works, from plant medicine, how it works in our bodies. It works in our bodies when our bodies can receive it. It's almost like cultivating the space for practice. It works when your body can receive it. You walk into a space your body can't receive, the practice is out the window.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with all of it. There's nothing separate. We can use all these analogies to connect to the same principle of purpose and practice. There's nothing separate. We are the medicine. We are the medicine.
To finish.
That's good. Okay. We're not going to stay here all day.
I wish we could. What is something that you would, for people who are deeply struggling in their practice, because you know where they are, I'm thinking about the metaphor you used before of like the church as the body and then the actual space as the fellowship. You know, for people who are doing their best to do the inner work, but are deeply struggling in where to go or how to go about it, because I think about people who haven't had mentors. I've been extremely fortunate to, anytime I was on my path and I came across somebody that I felt a deep resonance with, I just attached myself to them.
Yes.
I was like, I am learning from,
Right.
whether you like it or not, you are now teaching me.
Yeah. You better, because we run. No. Catch up.
Right. Yeah, and but I recognize that as a massive privilege and advantage and blessing. So for those who don't have mentors or teachers in that way, what is a teaching or a wisdom or a practice that you would share? You know, if for a moment everyone on the planet who was in their practice to grow, and their ears were open to a wisdom of yours or a teaching of yours, what is something that you would share, or maybe multiple things?
Oh my goodness. The first thing I would say is take off your shoes, go out into the woods and breathe. Put your feet in the earth, go out into the woods and breathe. Now, I've been asked this question. If you had a choice, would you live on the beach or would you live in the woods? And that was hard for me in the beginning. Because, you know, I love a beach. You know what I mean? I love the sounds of waves and the beauty and the vastness of the ocean. But there's some magic in the woods. The woods, the woods, the woods hold wisdom, hardship, and joy all in one place. So when I put my feet in the dirt and I look at the trees and I put my hands on the trunk, and I know that these trees have witnessed some really horrific things, some really, really horrible things. But I also know that they are still cultivating life. That gives me hope. So I say, give it to nature, because that's your true self. And we're living in a place where even my girls, they're afraid of bugs. They're afraid of nature. They got us afraid of nature. And that's the real poison. Because we need nature. When I teach young people, I go into these schools, and if they're really young, I go in, I walk in, and the first thing I say is, if you were a tree, what tree would you be? If you were a tree, what tree would you be? If you were a tree, what tree would you be? Ask me, tell me, what tree would you be?
Like an evergreen or a cedar.
Okay, so then I said, what are the qualities of an evergreen? Right?
Tall,
Yeah, right?
Tall, strong, sturdy.
I let you name yourself, right? Because the only way we can cultivate in this life and really keep it moving is to honor the soil, the trees, and the nature within us. And although we know and there's water under there, right? So we still got the water. And the beach, I'll have the water and sand, but I won't have the trees. I won't have the soil to grow other things. I can fish, and it really pulls me, so it pulls a lot. Depending on the day, it can pull. But in the forest, there's an equilibrium, there's a balance. There's a balance of all the things moving, learning, growing, and having to deal with each other. And that's the diversity we need. That's it. It's like all of us here. You pay this up, things are happening. Look, this up, things are happening. You're like, whoa, all these beings living in harmony. That's why I love to say, go and take your shoes off and be in the cultivation of us. And that's the deep forest. That's the trees. That's the plant kingdom. That's us. Do your due diligence. There's a gospel song, and the words are, "Bring me back that old time religion." And Mahalia Jackson sings that. It's How I Got Over. I love the song, How I Got Over. And she says, bring back that old time religion. And old time religion was in the forest. They had no buildings. They weren't allowed, it started there, but even when they weren't allowed to think, they had to hide in the forest and have church. So it was in nature. That's old time. That's old time spiritual. That's the first of our churches. That's why the body is the church. But if you don't know our past, and I'm talking about our past collectively, because before we could build, we were out still. Those trees have witnessed a lot. So yeah, go be with family. Go be with the trees.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. So welcome. I love you.
I love you. Thank you so much for everything, for this moment, for all the moments, for your walk and everything that you share.
You're welcome. You keep it up.
I absolutely will.
Because I'm so proud of what you're doing. And I can't even imagine.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Mwah! We did it!